slide in here. Once again, get nice and comfortable. G'day ladies, can I buy a drink? How are ya? G'day guys, Benjamin Harley here. Good to see you again, and thank you so much for tuning in for another video. In my last video, I made a full editing tutorial in Lightroom, and at the end I hinted that I may do a follow-up on the finishing touches I do here in Photoshop just to make my images pop a little bit more. And good news, today is the day I'm gonna make that tutorial for you guys right now. Those of you who follow me on Instagram might remember this photo from a few weeks ago. This was actually one of the most liked photos I've ever posted on Instagram, so I figured it would be a great one to show you guys a little bit of behind the scenes of what I do in Photoshop to make an image like this. Full disclosure, there is a little bit of Photoshop trickery going on in this photo, but I'm going to show you guys exactly what I did to get this image looking the way it does. As always, if you can hit that like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff, follow me on Instagram, you know, the whole kit caboodle, it would be much appreciated. But enough mucking around, let's get stuck in to the Photoshop tutorial. Alrighty, so I've opened up the photo in Photoshop here. I've already done my Lightroom edits. I'm happy with the way it's looking edit-wise. I'm just gonna fiddle with the final composition. Now, there is no right or wrong way to decide how you want to compose your shots, but for me personally, when I looked at this one, I loved these two dudes here. I like the way that they look. Like their boards look similar, their shadows are pretty similar. I don't know if they actually were entering the water together, but it looks like they're two mates going to tackle the waves. However, this third dude here, he's sort of, you know, he's hunched over. I think his board's on the ground. He doesn't look like he's a part of that group, so I decided he's not adding anything to this image. I'm gonna get rid of him. And also this, I'm not exactly sure what this thing is, this little bag or whatever down the bottom here, but I'll get rid of that as well. You might remember I posted a few weeks before this one, another photo that did very well on Instagram. I've got it open here. This one here. This is again one of my most liked ever photos on Instagram. A lot of the people who commented mentioned that they specifically liked the footsteps running along the right-hand side of the image here. It just feels like the image is telling a bit more of a story. And I remember going back to this image, I remember thinking, oh man, some footsteps from these two surfers trailing from the bottom of the image would look pretty cool. So that's the other main change I made to this image. Alrighty, so first things first, Photoshop is an extremely powerful tool, but it can also be very destructive if you're not careful. What I mean by that is you can accidentally bake in so many edits and changes into your image if you're not careful, and then find it's impossible to go back and undo those edits. So it's a very good idea to get in the habit of doing all your editing as layers. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna copy paste a whole new layer here like that. And now, let's say I wanted to go crazy on layer one. I don't know, let's say I just for an example, let's say I do this and turn that right up and all this sort of stuff. And then I decide, actually, you know what? I'm not loving what I've done to this image. You can click this little eyeball to toggle that on and off to see the original. And if you decide you don't like it, you're like, ugh, actually, I hate all the edits I did on layer one. You can just delete that layer, and then your original image is safe and sound. Okay, so for this first part, I'm gonna be removing the third surfer and that little bag that's down below, and just a few other bits and bobs that I don't think need to be in the image. I'm gonna be using a mixture of the clone stamp tool and the healing brush. I'll show you guys what I mean. So go over here to the spot healing brush. I'm gonna zoom in so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. All these little dots and stuff, I don't think they really need to be in the image, so they're super easy, just literally one click and they're gone. A healing brush is great for tiny little things like this that you don't need to spend 10 minutes doing each one individually. It's pretty intuitive, it knows what you want the image to look like. With slightly bigger things like this, it can be hit or miss. I'm gonna make the brush size a bit bigger and see how we go. It did it pretty much perfect that time, which is pretty good. Actually, no, it's gotten rid of it, but you'll notice there is a little bit of like a circle where you notice that I have done it. So sometimes I'll just sort of go over it a little bit more, and I think that's pretty much got rid of it. Alrighty, so that's how you use the spot healing brush tool, just for really tiny things that Photoshop can instantly just zap away. However, for slightly bigger things, such as the third surfer that I want to Photoshop out, it doesn't always work super well. We'll have a go and see how it looks. I'll zoom in on him, try to just give him a bit of a click. And yeah, as you can see, it's not really doing the job. It's just made him super blurry, but it's still very obvious that there's something there. So what I'm going to do for this dude is use the clone stamp tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for an area of the image that I'm going to want to use to paint over where this surfer dude is. I'll show you what I mean if you're still not exactly sure. I know my description wasn't the best. So once you're in the clone stamp tool, it's going to look a bit like this. Hold Alt and then the cursor will change into this little target thing and give it a click. Now what you've done is you've selected this point as the source. And now, as you can see, when I start putting it over where the surfer is, you can see this little pink sand is coming up. So I'm just going to start gently painting over this dude. And as you can see, just to the right of where my cursor is, there's that little plus that's showing me what area of the image I'm using to paint over. But if I start to go too far, it's actually starting to paint over the shadow of the surfer dude. So that's all good. Just gonna select that as the point again. This happens all the time, but it's super easy to fix. And just like that, the surfer is gone. It really is that easy. Just look for a source point that looks about right, paint it over, and anything you want to get rid of in your images will be gone like that. Let's zoom out again. And as I mentioned before, you can hit this little eyeball to toggle your edits on and off. So it's not a huge difference we've made, but it has just tidied up the image nicely. Not only have we got rid of the surfer and the bag, we've also gotten rid of all these unnecessary little dots and footprints and stuff right along the bottom there. And I already think this image is looking a lot cleaner, but I need to get to the nitty-gritty, which is adding those footsteps in. Alrighty, so to get those beautiful footprints incorporated into this image here, I'm gonna go over to this image here. And there's a few different ways you can do this. This is just the method I decided on. I'm gonna go to the rectangular marquee tool. It's basically just a way of making a rectangular selection in your image. Choose some of the footprints that I think look good. I like the way that they sort of trail off a little bit at the top here. I don't need the whole thing though, because I don't need that many. I might choose this point here. Just make a little selection around these footprints like that. Make it as tied in as you can without actually cutting anything off. And then it's as easy as hitting Control-C to copy, going back to my original image, and Control-V to paste. And now I've got these footprints on my image. You're going to want to hit Control-T to put it in transform mode, and then I can move it around. I can change the size. I'm going to do it for the further away surfer first, and just sort of position it roughly where it should be. It needs to be a tiny bit bigger just to go all the way to the edge of the screen. I think that looks pretty good. Hit enter, and there we go. We're done. We have seamlessly incorporated those footprints into the image. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, you can see how it's starting to come along, but we've still got a long way to go. Okay, so to blend these footsteps in a bit more seamlessly into the image, I'm going to do that with a layer mask. So I'm going to come down here, hit the layer mask button, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit B on the keyboard to go to the brush tool. Now if you can see down here, my colors are set to white and black. You need to have them on black or white. It won't work if your brush is on red or green or whatever. And I'm going to zoom in on the footprints a little bit more. How it works is black will get rid of the layer. So as you can see, I'm pasting over it now. And if I hit X, I can toggle between white and black as the front color, and white is going to bring it back. What's good about this is that it's only going to be affecting the footsteps because it's only affecting this layer, i.e. layer 2. So I can go absolutely crazy over here on the surfer and like all that sort of stuff. You can't really tell, but I'm holding down the brush away key and nothing's happening. As soon as I go over here, that's the only section of the image it's going to be affecting. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna zoom in even more on the footsteps, make that brush nice and small, and I'm literally just gonna start brushing away all the parts of the layer that I don't want, which is basically everything except the footprints themselves. I'm gonna start with a nice large brush at the start just to go around it, get rid of the majority of it. Just scroll right down. And don't worry too much if you accidentally go over it and do too much. All you have to do is hit the X tool and you can bring those parts back. However, I'm going to continue pasting it away. And also, I'm just brushing away as much of the darker area of the sand as I can from this larger brush size. Zoom out, you can see it's already helped a fair bit. However, it is still pretty obvious that it's been photoshopped in. So what I'm gonna do here, it is gonna take a little bit of time. It is gonna be a little bit tedious, but I'm gonna zoom right in, really close, super small brush size, and literally just go around every footprint as close as I can. So what I'm gonna do is, I might just do this for the first 2 or 3 footprints to give you guys the idea, and then I might skip ahead because you guys will get very bored just watching me do this for 20 minutes or however long it's gonna take. So just go right around these footprints here. Nice and close. Again, don't worry if you go a bit too close to the footprint and accidentally get rid of some of it. You can always just hit X to swap the brush color and brush it back in. Just gonna go right around like that. Maybe even zoom in a little bit more. That's looking pretty nice. And I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. And as you can see, so those 3 footprints, they look pretty good. Especially if you're zoomed out, you're not gonna be able to notice that they've been photoshopped in. So I'm gonna do this for the remainder of the image, but just skip that part so you don't need to watch me do this for the rest of it, so bear with me. Alrighty, and we're back. So I just went through, like I said, and just painted away all the bits of the footsteps layer that I didn't need. This is one of those things, if you were to zoom in really close and have a look, yeah, maybe it's not like absolutely perfect. You can sort of see there's tiny bits of brown around the very edge, but you have to think realistically when you're looking at this photo on your little phone screen on Instagram, especially when I zoom right out, you're not going to be able to tell what I've done. So that's a super easy way of just getting rid of all the background that I didn't need for those footprints. I do, however, want to do footprints for the other surfer as well. Luckily, I don't need to go through that whole process again. I'm literally just going to copy paste those footprints over. So if I go to here, Control C and Control V, as you can see, it's done another set of footprints right in the middle of the image here. Just quickly hit Control T to put it in transform mode, and just align those roughly how you want them. It doesn't matter if it goes off the screen. Obviously this one is going to be shorter because he's a bit closer to the bottom of the screen. I might just chuck it like that. Boom. Alrighty guys, and it's just that easy to make these sorts of composites and add elements to your image to make them tell a bit more of a story. What I'm going to do now is just show you guys from the original image to what we've done. So this is the original image. Our first step was removing the bottom surfer and some of those distracting elements in the sand. We then added another set of footprints for this surfer, and then we just copy pasted those footsteps onto this surfer here. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video somewhat helpful. Hopefully you now have the confidence to go out and try this on your own photos. But I think I'll leave it at that. See you later guys, I'll see you in the next video.